Well, I've got to say, I've been having some pretty bad luck lately. I am too ill to make a proper video, but all of this cool stuff is coming out, so I have to talk about it regardless. So I've got to say, this is really cool. Asahi Linux, which is a project to run Linux on M1 Macs, has recently released their first official alpha installer. Now, this is definitely not something you should try out if you don't know what you're doing, but to people who are familiar with Linux and indeed somewhat familiar with M1 machines, this might be something that you want to take a look at. So as I said earlier, Asahi Linux is a project to run Linux on M1 Macs, and I've tried this out and it is seriously impressive. Now this is their official installer, so now it's going to be much easier to install than it used to be. In fact, as far as I'm aware, you pretty much have to type in a one-line command and then follow a series of instructions. Pretty easy from what I can tell. As you can see down here, you've got some system requirements. You need an M1, M1 Pro or M1 Max machine, 53GB of disk space, because unfortunately the way the M1 Max works makes it impossible to have a fully efficient install, or at least from what I can tell. And the installation is, as you can see, pretty self-explanatory, or at least they say that it is. Now you've got three options for installing Asahi Linux. The Asahi Linux desktop, which is a customized Arch Linux ARM desktop, which comes with the Plasma desktop and all the basic packages that you need to get started. You've also got a graphical first boot setup wizard and that kind of thing, so pretty easy. You can also choose the Asahi Linux Minimal, which is basically what you get when you install an Arch Linux ISO. Probably what I would go with. And finally, you've got the UEFI environment only, which basically means you can boot whatever distribution you want as long as it supports the M1 Macs. So for instance, I believe at the moment that includes Debian and NixOS. Now, you've got a list here of what works and what doesn't work. Now, the list of what does work is actually pretty impressive, but I think for most people this isn't going to be just about ready yet to be daily driven. So for instance, if you install this, you're not going to have DisplayPort support, Thunderbolt, HDMI, Bluetooth, GPU acceleration, video codec acceleration, that sort of thing. You won't have a sleep mode, you won't have camera, the touch bar won't work. So for me, the real deal breaker here is the GPU acceleration. If my machine doesn't have GPU acceleration, I can't use it. But once that's added, I should be able to switch to this as my daily driver operating system, which is pretty cool. But if you're someone who just does like basic web browsing and typing documents, well, maybe this will be fine for you as is. If you scroll down, there's some known bugs that they have. They also have a few broken applications. Now, what's most notable here is that apparently the way that the kernel is set up means that Chromium, like as in the browser, doesn't work, and apparently some other things don't work either. Honestly, you should probably be using Firefox anyway, so, I mean, if you ask me, that's a feature as much as anything else. And yeah, that's pretty much their whole announcement. They have like an FAQ thing down here as well. But I really do just have to say that the work that Asahi Linux have been doing is seriously impressive. So if you have an M1 Mac like I do, get out there and give this a go, because I've got to say, the M1 machines are really impressive and I cannot wait to get that GPU acceleration so I can daily drive Linux on my M1 Mac. But with that said, that's my quick video. Sorry I couldn't demonstrate this working or whatever, I am way too ill to set up my camera and that sort of thing, but I hope you enjoyed me quickly going through this blog post all the same. So with that said, I thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.